I'm Jacob Doherty. I'm a researcher in the Transport Studies Unit at the University of Oxford. My project is an ethnographic study of what's called informal transport in Abidjan, in the Ivory Coast. So I'll be investigating two different kinds of transportation that have really proliferated in the city since the 1970s. One of them is a shared minibus system, and one of them is a shared taxi system. So the questions I'm interested in the first phase of the research have to do with work. And I'm interested in thinking about transport not just as something that connects people from their homes to work, to jobs, but also as a really important work site in the city that absorbs a lot of labor, that creates a lot of employment opportunities. So I'm interested in questions about how people are recruited into this labor force, where they go, what kinds of career paths they imagine for themselves, and what all of the different primary and secondary forms of employment that this sector generates. The second big phase of the research will be about the passengers and the people who really use this system. What does it do for them? What do they, what kinds of mobility in the city does it enable, and what, on the other hand, what kinds of mobility does it disable? This is an especially important gendered question about how transport systems allow men and women differential access to the city, differential kinds of mobility. So I want to better understand how relying on this, when these forms of transport are your primary means of mobility, how does this affect your life, decisions that you make about childcare, child rearing, family life, job opportunities to create businesses, to engage in business, that kind of thing. So that's the kind of two core empirical questions about the system. What kinds of work does this afford, and what kinds of lives does this structure? So basically, how is transportation connected to social mobility in these two phases? These kinds of transport are really important. They provide about 2.5 million journeys in this one city every day. But at the same time, they're really overlooked in official planning discourses. So my main hope is that I'm able to really introduce these things more into the official planning rhetoric. So there's a 500-page master plan that mentions them 15 times, which means they're sort of really being overlooked in favor of much more capital-intensive, modern, transformative infrastructure projects like trains or BRT systems. But these are really innovative systems that have grown up to suit the needs of the city, that have evolved over time. And so the key thing that I want to find out through my research to contribute is to understand what kinds of reforms and innovations are already latent within the industry, that drivers, passengers, transport owners, different actors within this industry, what kinds of reforms do they imagine? What do they envision? How would they like to transform the industry to make it safer, more secure, more sustainable, more comfortable for passengers, more reliable? What are the kind of innovations that are already there so that the industry can be improved on its own terms and continue to contribute and innovate to sustainable mobilities in the city?